Arguments, fights, and disagreements are just part of any type of relationship. There is no relationship out there that has avoided conflict. Handling issues that arise in your relationship is more important than trying to avoid them, because you just won't be able to dodge a disagreement forever. It's especially important to model positive conflict resolution with your spouse for your children's sake. They need to see that even if you disagree, you can still handle it with grace. You can't expect your kids to fight peacefully if you and your spouse aren't modeling that behavior. Let's dive into ways that you can model conflict resolution with your spouse. Number 1, there is always a time and a place for an argument. If you notice that there is going to be a disagreement that has the potential of turning into a massive fight, then try not to have it in front of the kids. Although it's healthy for them to see you resolve conflicts, they don't need to just see you guys yelling at each other. This can cause unnecessary trauma that is avoidable. Be very conscientious about where your kids are and understand that they don't want to hear you yelling at each other. And another thing, the kids also don't care about you modeling your conflict resolution while they're out and about having fun. It's okay to just agree to talk about your disagreement later. Number 2, you don't always have to get the last word. Sometimes it's tempting to be the last one to speak. But if you're both fighting to get the last word in, then the debate will never end. Your children will learn that you shouldn't back down and you should just keep going at it until the other one gives up. This isn't what you should be teaching your children. Number 3, practice active listening. Active listening can be tricky, but it's a skill that you should be teaching your children, and they'll learn the best if you're modeling the behavior. When your spouse is saying their piece, then it's your job to be quiet, listen, and respond. Your response should indicate that you listened and understood what your spouse just said. If you're not active listening, then you're likely interrupting your partner, looking away when they talk, and zoning out during their turn to speak. Number 4, use I statements. If you start every sentence with you, then it will lead to more arguments. Using the word you automatically puts the blame on your spouse, and they'll feel attacked and likely defensive of your statement before you even speak. In order to avoid this, you can say things like, I feel sad when, or I would like to see us work on. Number 5, something that's extremely important to keep in mind is to always remember to manage emotions. Some people are better at this than others, and some couples manage their emotions better than others. There are couples who have to scream no matter the argument, or there are couples who think that if they're louder than their partner, then they're automatically right. If you're going to turn every conflict into a screaming match, then it's likely that your children will follow suit. If you want your children to be able to manage their emotions during a conflict, then you need to model that behavior for them. Number 6, stay focused on the issue. It's quite easy to bring up a past argument or issues when in the middle of a current argument. You might be tempted to say, you always, or remember when you. All of these arguments take away from the now. If you bring up other conflicts, then you're going to derail the situation, and emotions are going to possibly get out of control. To maintain control of the situation, it's essential that you just talk about what you're currently discussing. Number 7, foster empathy and understanding. You love your spouse, and you don't want to argue with them. Remember how much you love them and try to see things from their point of view. In an argument, it's quite simple to think selfishly. You think about what you want and sometimes don't take a step back and consider your partner's feelings. When in an argument, take a deep breath and try to think about the disagreement through a compassionate lens. Number 8, when you're in the middle of an argument, you might find a time when you just realize that you're not going to see eye to eye on a certain subject, and that's okay. The only thing you can do at this point to avoid escalating the argument is to find common ground. What is it that you guys do agree on? Number 9, teach your kids how to apologize and how to forgive. If they did something wrong, then they need to rectify it. Show your children that you know how to apologize. Your kids will not think any less of you if you have to say sorry. Nobody is perfect, and we're all going to make mistakes. It's important that your children realize that even adults make mistakes, but they're not afraid to apologize when those mistakes occur. And then an even harder concept, forgiveness. Quite often, forgiving somebody for wronging you is actually more difficult than apologizing. You might have a tough time letting something go or moving on. Show your children that they need to forgive people because it doesn't do anything for their overall health to hold grudges or to have enemies. And finally, number 10. Be sure to come to some sort of resolution. If you don't problem solve a conclusion to your conflict, then the issue will still pop up over and over. A solution has to be met in order to fully heal, move on, and avoid the same argument in the future. If you keep having the same fights, then your children are going to realize that you aren't learning anything from your arguments. Modeling effective conflict resolution with your spouse is a vital component of a healthy and thriving relationship. By employing active listening, empathy, and a problem-solving mindset, you can transform conflicts into opportunities for growth and understanding. If you are modeling this positive behavior in front of your children, then they will learn how to resolve conflict in their many relationships with their friends, classmates, teammates, or their siblings. It is your job to show them the proper way to handle conflict resolution.